Hello and welcome to the Colorado Coming Together Out of the Darkness experience. Wow, that's quite a title. We are the Colorado chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We are coming together in Colorado, even though it's online today instead of attending our usual Out of the Darkness community walks. We're coming together out of the darkness. Whether it's the loss of a loved one or a current struggle, this is an online experience all across Colorado. We know this is a different way of connecting. However, our mission remains the same: to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. So for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to hear powerful stories from all across Colorado of how AFSP helps to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. And we're going to be asking you to help support AFSP. And by the way, there'll be a new and amazing music video at the end from our dear friend, singer-songwriter Tom Prasado Rao that you don't want to miss. We'll start by hearing from some of the incredible volunteer leaders who had planned on sharing Out of the Darkness community walks this fall. With the help of our 2020 best friend Zoom, we're connecting all across the state. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Morning.
Morning.
Looks like you're all excited to be here, so let's start touring the state. We'll start in Gunnison, where Chris Peterson has chaired multiple Out of the Darkness community walks. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
How'd you become connected with AFSP?
In 2015, my three boys were in high school and they lost one of their closest friends. Within 6 months, we had lost 2 more students to suicide, and I realized it was time for me to find something to help our community. I connected with AFSP and began the Gunnison Out of the Darkness campus walks in the spring of 2016. And from there, we have continued for years, and we're glad to be together, and I'm thrilled to be able to bring our community together and support each other.
Well, Chris, what do you value most about AFSP?
The education programs. I began with Talk Saves Lives and began learning about suicide prevention, how to support others and how to help others. And from there, I've been able to share it with our entire community and also with my colleagues in housing.
Thanks, Chris. It's clear that in a small town like Gunnison, 3 suicides at the high school affected a lot of people.
High school Spanish teacher Janet Crossley grieved deeply that spring and summer of 2015. She taught all 3 students who died by suicide, and Sean was good friends with her son.
He was at our house frequently that summer. He and my son were in choir together. They were the only 2 basses in the choir. And it's a very small school. It impacted the whole community very, very deeply.
It was a devastating time in Gunnison. Andrea Briner was friends with one of the boys' mothers.
Another friend and I were like, we have to do something. So we started looking into things that we could do and found the Out of the Darkness walks and stuff and brought that to Gunnison. And we've been doing that every year since.
I think that when you've been through a situation that is deeply jarring to you, you want to try to do some kind of positive action. AFSP helped me to give a focus to my desire to try to do something to help by trying to raise awareness and strength and support and education to people around the issue of suicide.
Andrea had another reason for connecting.
So my father passed away. He completed suicide when I was 2.5 years old. For me, I'm an addiction counselor, and I know my father felt hopeless. I know he was in a really bad situation and just with the drugs. I don't think he knew anywhere else to turn. And I want people to know that there's somewhere else to turn, that there's people willing to help you if you're just willing to reach out and ask for help.
It's certainly true that people who are struggling need to know that there's somewhere they can turn. And by being with us today and supporting AFSP, you're helping us develop and share education programs in many communities. Programs that give people practical strategies for recognizing the warning signs of suicide and preventing suicide in their communities. We'll move now to Fremont County. Jessica Cobbler couldn't be with us today, but her co-chair, Brenda McDermott, is here. Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
Tell us how you found out about AFSP.
I lost my daughter Lindsay to suicide May 27, 2009 at the age of 17. She had just finished her junior year of high school where she was active in clubs and sports. She had a job, she was a member of 4-H and always had a smile on her face. Lindsay never showed signs of depression. Her suicide blindsided not only our family, but our community. I met Jessica through a mutual friend in 2013, not long after I attended my first Out of the Darkness walk in Denver.
So, Brenda, I'm hoping you can tell us about some of the resources and education that AFSP has to help families who are struggling.
A great resource is afsp.org website, where you can find support if you've lost someone or want to understand how to help someone at risk. This includes information about the Healing Conversations program, offering personal support for survivors of suicide loss and being able to search online to find local support group in your area. Jessica has been involved with local schools, sharing her story and promoting suicide awareness and prevention. She has also presented to city council members in Canyon City and Florence, advocating for more awareness about the cause. Recently, we were interviewed by a local radio station to share our stories and to help stop the stigma that surrounds suicide. I want to add that Jessica found AFSP in 2014 after her son Dalton died by suicide, just weeks after graduating high school as valedictorian. Not long after, Jessica reached out to Carrie Canterbury, who is a reporter for Canyon City Daily Record, and she asked her to write about the National Suicide Prevention Month. Carrie has become a real advocate and resource for us.
Brenda, thank you so much for sharing with us. And now let's hear from Carrie.
In 2019, we had 30 suicides investigated in Fremont County, and that's a pretty high number for us. And I know that we've got to keep getting the word out on how to get people help, how to share hotlines and text lines and resources is vitally important. Someone reached out to me recently in an emergency situation, needing some resources right then to help a friend. I went right to AFSP and I learned what to do in that situation and how to help the person. And I sent that over to her and she was able to help her loved one right away. So we appreciate AFSP providing such vital, valuable, life-saving information that's available 24/7.
Resources are so important, both for those who've had a loss and for those who battle depression and anxiety and who are struggling in the darkness themselves. Speaking of support, let's move next to Fort Collins, where Joanna DeMare is the walk chair. Joanna, how'd you become connected with AFSP?
My son Brian was with the Army Special Forces and he did 3 tours to the Middle East. He suffered a traumatic brain injury and an IED explosion, and after extensive rehab, he returned to active duty stateside. It was then that he died by suicide.
So I understand you're a real believer in what AFSP does to provide support after suicide.
Yes, I am, and I've been involved with various support group activities. Mayo Clinic research has acknowledged that by participating in support groups, individuals have an opportunity to share a common purpose with others and are more likely to understand each other. Support groups encourage participants to be in the journey rather than just on the journey. In addition to helping myself grow through the grief process, rather than just going through it, the support groups have afforded me an opportunity to hope and empower others as they become involved and learn that they are not alone. This desire prompted me to attend AFSP's facilitator training program last year, and I'm hopeful that soon I'll be able to be involved with Larimer County's Suicide Prevention Coalition to help with facilitating a support group.
Thanks, Joanna. You're so right. Support is crucial after losing someone to suicide. Lisa Harris certainly knows that. Her daughter died by suicide just last year.
Oh, wow. My daughter, Catherine Elizabeth Harris, she was everything to me, to our family. She had a beautiful voice. She had perfect pitch. She fell in love with a jazz musician, and they played all over. She was well known throughout the area for her amazing voice. In high school, there were some unfortunate things that happened, and she kept it a secret for more than a decade. And she decided to join AA, got her first week's chip, saw the person about a week later in the grocery store that had assaulted her with other people. 5 days later, she died by suicide. Some days I have good days, some days I can't cope. My voice is shot now from screaming so much in my car. We're donors. We raise money any way we can because they have education to help prevent other families from going through this, and to help how to give those families tools to perhaps save a life. That's why.
Hearing stories like Lisa's is heart-wrenching. We've lost too many to suicide. Here are some of the images of loved ones that were shared with us recently from around the state. One of our prime missions at AFSP is to let you know that you are not alone. You may have noticed pictures of the colored beads in our videos. We call them honor beads. They represent the different kinds of personal connections to the cause. White represents the loss of a child. Red signifies the loss of a spouse or partner. Gold, loss of a parent. Orange, loss of a sibling. Purple, loss of a relative or friend. Silver, loss of a first responder or military member. Green, a personal struggle or attempt. Teal shows support for someone who struggles or has attempted. Blue shows support for suicide prevention and AFSP. Blue is something all of us can wear. Our next walk chair wears gold beads for the loss of a parent. Sammy Damsky chairs the walk in Southwest Colorado. Sammy, how did you connect with AFSP?
I lost my dad to suicide in 2014 and attended an Out of the Darkness community walk that fall in my hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina. In that same semester, several students died by suicide at my college, Appalachian State. This prompted me to start an Out of the Darkness campus walk there that spring. After graduating, I moved to Telluride and started an Out of the Darkness community walk here 4 years ago.
So why are you so passionate about the connections you make in AFSP?
I will never forget the feeling I felt when I first arrived at my first Out of the Darkness walk. I felt comfort to be surrounded by others with similar experiences. I felt inspired by those who shared their personal stories and struggles, and hopeful from all those who showed up that day to fight suicide. Being a walk chair for the past 6 years has fostered so many meaningful relationships with others who are also super passionate about this cause. I'm lucky to have really strong connections where I work at Tri-County Health Network and live in Telluride. We're going to hear now from two of my friends. One of my coworkers, Corinne, and the co-chair of the Southwest Colorado Walk for the last 4 years, Lolly.
Well, thank you for the work you do. Let's go to that video now.
Corinne found AFSP when she started working for Tri-County Health. It was right after her brother's best friend, Manit, died by suicide.
Suicide affects so many more people than you think it does, but no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to say, oh, I had a friend die by suicide, or my dad died by suicide, or whatever it is, because it's such a faux pas, such a traditionally dark topic.
Mental health advocacy is super important to me. I lost my grandfather to suicide when I was 16 years old. You know, as I got older and experienced my own struggles in life and had my own spout of depression when I was 23, I realized it's just such an important thing to be having conversations about, especially when we're spending a lot of time apart from people.
Especially in these times right now, the world has become such a dark place where if we can have little moments of light just to show each other that we want each other to be alive and that the world is better with all of us in it, I think that's what suicide prevention is. It's just showing that love more often than we already do.
This is a good time to point out some excellent resources on the AFSP website regarding how we can support our mental health and each other during this COVID pandemic at afsp.org/COVID-19. As we wrap up National Suicide Prevention Week and note that all of September is National Suicide Prevention Month, AFSP has a new campaign called #KeepGoing. One thing you might want to do is add this crisis resource to your phone and your Facebook page. Have a real conversation with someone in your life and make time to do some self-care in this difficult time. #KeepGoing. Our goal is to stop suicide. You'll have your chance to help AFSP with your generous donations at the end of our time together. And please tell your friends and family that we're raising money to support AFSP all during Suicide Prevention Month and throughout the year. Now we're moving to Northeast Colorado, where Brittany Frisbee is chair. Britt, how did you become connected with AFSP?
We lost my cousin Brian to suicide in 2008, and a few years after that, one of my friends reached out to me to ask if my family had ever heard of the Out of the Darkness community walks. So I did some research and I actually reached out to the national office to see if we could get an event out in my town in Northeast Colorado. And I've been chairing the Northeast Colorado Walk ever since. And this is our 8th year.
I know you've been involved for several years now, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about AFSP's advocacy work.
Our public policy and advocacy events bring together advocates from across the nation to really urge our public officials at all different levels of government to really prioritize suicide prevention and mental health awareness. On our local level, our annual State Capitol Day brings together several of our volunteers to share their stories, to make connections, and to educate our public officials. They have the opportunity to meet with our legislators and our lawmakers to distribute information packets and to urge their support for crucial policy changes to improve mental health, to help prevent suicide, and to really understand what investments and initiatives there are in mental health and suicide prevention that can ultimately save lives. AFSP Colorado is again joining together with Mental Health Colorado, SPCC, NAMI, to bring the 3rd annual Suicide Prevention Day at the Colorado State Capitol, and that's going to be held on February 24th, 2021.
Thanks, Britt. AFSP really is renowned for being a leader in suicide prevention and offers many education options, including programs for schools and universities. That's one reason that mental health professionals sing AFSP's praises. Here's a perfect example. Miranda Miller is with Centennial Mental Health Center in Northeast Colorado.
So the organization I work for is Centennial Mental Health Center, and we are a community mental health center located in Northeast Colorado. We serve 10 rural frontier counties, a little over 17,000 square miles. One of the programs we provide is AFSP's More Than Sad program for educators, parents, and for teenagers. And it really does touch on that depression. Real depression is more than just being sad for a couple of days, and it can manifest very differently. And it lets those kids know that there is help out there, and that depression can look very different, and that we know that they're more likely to talk to their friends than they are to an adult. And so it's so very critical that our youth know how to reach out for resources and services. It's quite critical that we start very young and have this conversation about how valuable life is, and that suicide is not the answer to any of life's big problems. And I think AFSP has done a great job of helping me to be able to spread that word.
What you may not know about this organization is that AFSP funds groundbreaking suicide research. This year, we're funding 38 new studies, bringing our total current investment to $20 million. Through research, we can discover new ways to save lives to help bring us out of the darkness. Which reminds me, be sure to stay with us for an amazing song at the end of today's experience. Our final stop as we travel Colorado today is the Western Slope. Mason Hostat and Lisa Domer led the first Out of the Darkness event in 2019 in Glenwood Springs. How did you become connected with AFSP?
I'm an injury prevention nurse and a trauma nurse coordinator, and I joined our local coalition in 2015, and then in 2016, I chaired my first International Survivor of Suicide Loss Day. Our community has had way too many losses, and I'm very passionate about prevention.
And I work for Garfield County Public Health, where suicide prevention is part of my focus for the department and part of a larger injury prevention and mental health work on the Western Slope.
So Lisa, as a nurse, why is talking about suicide prevention, talking about it out loud, so important?
Well, as an ER nurse, I've sadly seen the effects of suicide in our community. And oftentimes the first thing I hear from family members is they had no idea their loved one was suffering. So talking about mental health and the struggles that people have out loud, I hope will help with prevention.
Absolutely, thank you. And Mason, please tell us about Mental Health First Aid, a super cool partnership program that AFSP chapters help bring to their communities.
I have Algie here with me because I am a mental health first aid trainer. 1 in 5 Americans will have a mental health challenge in their life, and early intervention is key, and this means working upstream. And mental health first aid helps to train people on signs for mental health issues that people may be having, and also gives people real actionable and how-to steps for somebody who may actually be in crisis.
Thanks to you both. Also on the Western Slope, Allison Jorgensen is another clinician who finds personal value in AFSP.
Like we all say, we've kind of joined the club. A club you've never wanted to be a part of.
Psychotherapist Allison Jorgensen joined the club when her brother Trey completed suicide. He'd struggled with mental health his whole life. She especially appreciates Survivor Day.
Taking that step and entering into relationship with other people who have gone through the same tragedy can be wonderfully supportive. It's so freeing to be able to cry with other people, and we can commiserate on a level that someone who hasn't lost someone to suicide, just kind of can't even relate to. So that was what enabled me to really find a benefit of those connections.
We thank all of our volunteers today for being part of our online experience, and we want to thank our sponsors too. A special shout out to Comfort Dental. They're a generous statewide sponsor, and we really appreciate their support. As you can see, there are also many businesses and healthcare organizations and cities who are sponsors for the Out of the Darkness this year. And if you own a business or other group that would like to be a sponsor this year, it's not too late. You can sign up and be a sponsor through the rest of the year. If you go to afsp.org/CO Together website, you'll find links to pages for all 6 of the Colorado areas, and you can sign up there. And those who've already signed up, thank you again. As a community and sponsors and volunteers and supporters, we know we have much to do. We lose over 48,000 lives to suicide every year in our country. We cannot let another day go by without acknowledging that mental health is as real and as important as physical health, and acknowledging that suicide is a health issue that affects us all. Now, here's our AFSP Colorado Chapter Area Director, Sherry Cole.
Thank you all so much for being here today. Seeing and hearing all these stories today reminds us of the ever-growing need for education, support, advocacy, and research to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. So what can you do to support AFSP's vital work? How much do you value this work and the cause? How much can you give? You are an important part of a national movement, and we need your support as together we keep striving for our goal to stop suicide. To make your donation, go to afsp.org/CO Together and then select your area's webpage. You'll see details about how to get connected in your area, and we hope you'll give as generous a donation as you possibly can. And please know that we appreciate you and every single dollar. Together, we work to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide.
Yes, we are all definitely working together.
Together, we educate our friends and communities on what they can do when they see someone struggling.
Together, even during these challenging times, we help each other know that we are not alone.
Together, we can advocate for legislation to improve access to mental health care, like our State Advocacy Day at the Colorado State Capitol.
Together, we support families and friends who have lost someone to suicide.
Together, we raise money for research into suicide prevention.
Together, we can raise money to fund our programs.
And when we raise more, we can do more.
Together.
Thanks for joining us today. Before you go to afsp.org/CO Together website to give, here's a little more inspiration from singer-songwriter Tom Prasado Rao. He's usually with us live. This year he did a special recording of his song, Out of the Darkness.
One of these mornings, Lord, I swear, I wake up already there, out of the darkness, into the light. That's how I feel when all is wrong, even though I don't belong. Out of the darkness, into the light. Out of the darkness, coming out of the darkness. wasn't really born to run. That's just where I'm coming from. Out of the darkness into the light. So when I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep out of the darkness into the light. Out of the darkness, they're coming out. Hey, out of the darkness, I wanna live like there's nothing to forgive, no one to betray, nothing left to pay. Out of the darkness, they're coming out of the darkness. One of these mornings, Lord, I swear, I wake up already there, out of the darkness into the light. Out of the darkness into the light. One of these mornings, Lord, I swear, I wake up already there, out of the darkness into the light. That's how I feel when all is wrong, even though I don't belong. Out of the darkness into the light. Out of the darkness, coming out.